Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to dig into one of the most powerful ideas in personal growth, and it's this. Real, lasting improvement doesn't come from fixing all your weaknesses, but from finding and leaning into what you're naturally good at, your talents. So let me ask you something. When you decide it's time to improve, what's your first instinct? Do you pull out a mental list of everything you're not so great at? We all do it. It's super common. But what if I told you there's a much better, way more energizing way to grow? So here's our game plan. We're going to talk about the power of focusing on your strengths. I'll introduce you to a really cool tool for growth. Then we'll get practical with some exercises to find your own talents. We'll also break down the roles of a mentor and mentee in all this. And finally, we'll wrap it up by talking about how this is basically like unlocking your own personal superpower.
All right, let's dive right in. For a long, long time, the old way of thinking about improvement was all about deficits. Find what's broken and try to fix it. But that's all changing. The real key to leveling up is to find what already works amazingly well and just build on that.
And here's why that's so important. When you focus on your natural talents, it's just way more effective. It's more motivating. You build momentum, your confidence shoots up, and you're actually excited about the process. It's about building yourself up, not just, patching up the holes. Okay, so how do you actually do this in a structured way? Well, let's talk about a fantastic tool that's designed for this exact purpose. It's called the mentoring canvas. Think of it like a collaborative map for your growth journey. It's not some rigid, boring set of rules. It's a flexible, visual guide that gets the conversation going and keeps both the mentor and the mentee totally focused on what really matters. Now check this out, because the order here is everything. The canvas makes you start with talents. See that? Before you even think about your values or your vision for the future, this framework says, hold on, first you have to know what you're working with. Your innate strengths are the absolute foundation for everything else that comes after. And yeah, that really just drives the whole point home. Before you can map out your dreams, you've got to know what your best assets are. Discovering your talents is the bedrock. It's the solid ground you build everything else on. Okay, so now for the fun part. Let's get practical. How do you actually find these talents? Well, here are a few really solid exercises you can try either by yourself or with a mentor. Think of this discovery process as coming at it from 4 different directions. You can look inward by analyzing your past wins and just reflecting. You can get some structure by using formal assessments. And you can look outward to your community and get feedback from people who know you best. Let's break those down. Now, if you're someone who likes a more data-driven approach, these tools can be total game changers. The Clifton Strengths Assessment, for example, is famous for helping you find your top 5 talent themes. And other tools, like the FRIS and DISC tests, they give you a whole new vocabulary to talk about how you think and act. They're super insightful. But hey, if you want a method that's a little simpler but still incredibly powerful, try this. Seriously, just reach out to about 10 people you trust, friends, colleagues, whoever, and ask them one simple question. What do you think my top 3 talents are? You will be amazed by the patterns that show up in their answers. All right, now let's turn inward with some self-reflection. I'm going to give you 3 powerful questions. First up, think about this. When do you feel the most you? When are you just buzzing with energy? That feeling of being in the zone? That's a massive clue pointing right at your natural talents. Next question, what kind of stuff just naturally pulls you in? The things you find yourself doing just for the fun of it, even when nobody's telling you to. That's often where your innate strengths are hiding in plain sight. And last but not least, when do people come to you for help? The talents you probably take for granted are usually the ones that are crystal clear to everyone else around you. So this whole discovery process is powerful on its own, for sure, but it gets amplified like 10 times over in a good mentoring relationship. So let's get really clear on how the mentor and mentee work together on this journey. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Look, the mentor isn't there to hand you the answers. Their job is to guide the conversation, to ask those deep, powerful questions we just talked about. They create a safe space for you to explore. And the mentee? Their job is to show up ready to engage, to think deep, and to take total ownership of their growth. It is a true partnership. So we've talked about why your strengths are so important and how you can start to find them. Let's bring this all home and reframe this whole idea into something even more exciting. Here's the bottom line. This isn't just about being good at a few things. No, understanding your talents gives you a strategic advantage in life. It lets you put your energy where it's going to have the biggest possible impact. And that's what leads to real, lasting success. And this, right here, is the transformation. It's the shift from just unconsciously having a talent to consciously using it as a tool. That's when it becomes your superpower, that unique force you can bring to any challenge, any project, any goal you have. So, I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Based on everything we've talked about, what is one talent you have, doesn't matter if it's big or small, that you could intentionally use to do something tomorrow? Because that simple act, that's where this journey really begins. Thanks for tuning in.